Hey guys, it's Stephanie with more lice advice. I'm just going to take you through a few common myths about head lice. We call it the facts of lice. These are the most commonly asked questions that our clients in the clinic will ask us. And I thought that I would share this information with you to help you out in the event that you ever have an infestation or have to deal with something like this. So the first thing is, why should I care? Well, the CDC estimates that 6 to 12 million infestations of head lice will occur annually in the United States, mainly afflicting younger children, pre-K through elementary school. But once those kids pick up head lice, they bring it into the home and they will infect 70% of their household. So if you have very young children and they're coming up through, preschool and elementary school, odds are you're going to have to deal with this at some point in time. So we want to arm you with the best information and dispel some myths that are out there. Lice are small parasites, human parasites that live on the human head only. You're not going to find them anywhere else. They're not found in the wild. They can't live or survive on animals. A louse can fall off your head by accident, which means you would be scratching it off or brushing it or flick it somehow, because it's not going to readily, easily move off of your head. Your head is the only place it can feed, and it needs to feed every few hours. So if a louse falls off your head, it's only going to be able to survive for up to 48 hours. The second thing to know is that lice do not fly and they don't jump. So the only way to contract lice is from head-to-head contact with someone else who has lice. You can get lice from sharing hats or bedding, a sleepover, but it's much less common to contract head lice from your environment. The way that it's the easiest way to get it is from head-to-head contact with your hair touching someone else's hair, a hug, or sitting really close on the bus, or when children are small, they play really closely together and there's just contact, hair-to-hair contact, and that's the way lice travel. So here's some imagery of lice and the sizes, how small they can be. Let me get rid of this toolbar here. Go away. Okay, guess it's not going anywhere. This is a louse on the head of a dime. This is an adult louse. This is what's called a baby or a nymph. Baby lice are called nymphs, NYMPH. This is a nymph in its first onstar, it's called. There will be 3 moltings until it becomes an adult. So this is the first onstar, second onstar, third onstar. This is a male louse, and this is a female louse. And notice the female has a big bodice. This is where she stores her eggs. Once a female is pregnant, she is pregnant for life, and all she does is lay eggs. She'll lay 3 to 5 eggs at a time, twice a day. Now, those eggs are going to be glued onto the hair shaft. The lice actually secrete a glue, and then they lay the eggs onto the hair shaft so that the eggs won't easily fall off, and your head is the incubator for these eggs. Lice eggs cannot hatch at room temperature. They need to incubate on your head, and they will lay them within 1/4 of an inch of your scalp, which is the warmest spots on your head. This is another picture of a nymph and then an adult down the bottom. And then here from left to right, we have an adult and back down the nymph stages. This over here on the right-hand side, this is a pubic louse or a crab, not to be confused with head lice. Head lice and pubic lice or body lice are not related at all. This will take you through the lice life cycle. This up here is an egg, and this is the hair shaft that it's laid on. The eggs, again, are called nits, N-I-T. Those take about 7 to 10 days to hatch into what is called a nymph. This is the baby again. The baby will go through those 3 molting phases. The baby has to feed soon after hatching, of course, and then it goes through 3 molts as a nymph. That takes 10 days for it to mature into an adult. The adult will begin laying eggs within 24 hours, and she will lay 6 to 10 eggs a day for the remainder of her life, which would be another 20 to 30 days. She'll lay unfertilized or fertilized eggs. Only about 77% will hatch naturally. A day in the life of a louse. So lice eat about 3 to 5 blood meals a day, which means they have to feed every few hours. And again, they're only feeding on a human head. They cannot feed on your dog. They can't eat the food in your kitchen. They're not rummaging around your closet, trying on your clothes. They really need to stay close to the food source. They mate often. They lay eggs 2 times daily. They can lay up to 150 eggs during the life cycle of one pregnant female. They rest, and they look for a new host occasionally. The only reason they would willingly look for a new host is if either a better candidate becomes available, someone with nice, thick hair, or they're just running out of room and they need to make a new colony. Usually only the adult females will migrate to start a new colony in someone else's hair. What lice do not do: they do not jump, swim, or fly. They do not dig or burrow, since they need to get back on ahead if they get dislodged. They do not eat anywhere except a human head, and you cannot get lice from coming into contact with their nits or eggs. Once a nit is removed from the hair, it has no mechanism for reattaching itself to another head. This is some images of nits or eggs. So if you're ever doing your own checks, which we also have another video series for, this would be what you're looking for. This is an egg here. Obviously, these are under a microscope. The actual embryo is going to grow into here. This one's a little light because it's brand new. As it grows in, it's going to get darker and darker. And this little cap on the end here, this is called an operculum. And the operculum has little holes in it, which are called aeropiles. Those allow oxygen in for the nit to be able to breathe. This right here is the hair shaft. But if you can see without my, go away. Okay, so there's, to the left bottom of my screen, it's actually showing you the glue that is secreted by the lice. And that's how those nits stay so securely attached to your head. They're going to be, again, laying those nits within 1/4 of an inch of your scalp. So they're very close to the scalp. And those are the newly laid eggs. This is just some imagery to show you the size without magnification of, this is an adult louse, which will be no bigger than a sesame seed, but they're pretty small still. And these are nits. These are the way the nits will look when you kind of wipe them on a paper towel and you're looking and you're doing your own check. They're going to look like a little tadpole almost. They look like they have a little tail. It's not actually a tail. It's the glue that's left behind that the lice secrete, and that comes off when you comb them out with a nit comb. So like this here, this isn't a tail. This is the glue that comes off when you're nit combing through the hair. It takes off the egg and also the glue. Now, this down here is an empty shell, and we know it's empty because it's missing the operculum, that bubbly little cap. That bubbly cap hatches open at about 7 to 10 days, and then the louse either emerges, the nymph, because it's a baby at that point, it either emerges or it doesn't because it was not fertilized, but the lice will lay both fertilized and unfertilized eggs. And this is more images of adult lice. These are adults. This is a nymph. This is a nymph. These are nits. This is a nit on the hair. But just the more you look at it, the more you see what it looks like, you can really start to tell that lice are very similar. There are not a lot of deviations in the body type. So if you're combing through your kid's hair and you pull out a gnat or a flea or some other kind of bug and it has wings or it jumps, you're going to know that that's not a louse. They always have these 6 little legs with curved claws. They have their 2 little antennae on top. And they have this, this very defined bodice. This is an eye spot on a nit. That just means it's close to hatching. The eye spots form at about day 4 after being laid. And this means that, this is a viable nit. Viable means that this has a very good chance of hatching into a nymph. Unless the nymph inside gets damaged and dies for some reason, this egg most likely would have hatched had we not combed it out. Now that we've combed it out, there's no way for it to hatch. It cannot hatch at room temperature. And how to spot head lice. Although head lice and their nits are small, they are visible to the naked eye. Most likely when you're doing your own checks, and again, be sure to subscribe to my channel to check out the other videos that we have posted on how to check your kids for head lice. But most likely when you're doing your checks, you're actually going to see the nits and not the bugs. Bugs are very hard to catch in action unless there's so many of them that there's just nowhere for them to run. But they instinctively know that you're coming. They're very intelligent. They will align with the hair shaft when you're looking for them so that they can disguise themselves. But you're not going to be able to hide these nits, and they will look different on different hair. On darker hair, they look a little more lighter and shimmery. On light hair, they can look white. They can look clear if they're hatched. They can look dark. I wouldn't go by the color. But when you're looking for a nit, if you see something in the hair that you're not sure about, what you want to do is really just run your fingers over it. If it comes off easily or it moves down the hair shaft, or you can blow it away or tap it with your comb and it moves, then it's not lice related. But the nits are, again, glued onto the hair shaft. The only way to remove them would be to pry them off with your fingernail or to use a nit comb. So I hope you've learned something today, and I hope that this will help some families out. And be sure to check out our other links for video tutorials that are lice related.